Excellent. We're live. For Algebra 2, lesson 7-8, solving quadratics by taking square roots, or roots because I kind of fit it in there. Today's date is the 14th of March. I'm not going to write it European style. I'm writing it American style. American style, so that we can see that's Pi Day, 3/14, 2023. It's really enjoying it. What? Wait, no.
Oh, it doesn't. It's like,
Sorry, it is what it is. All right, so I'm just going to jump in with an example. I think these are pretty straightforward. You're just using your basic mix of Algebra 1 with, I think this is an Algebra 1 lesson. This is an Algebra 1 lesson, so it should be pretty straightforward. All right, example 1. All right. If I have a problem like x squared is equal to, I don't know, 81. How do you undo the square? With a quiet raise hand. How many people know how to undo a square? I have 1, 2. Only 2 people?
Oh, there it is. I can see people as well.
We'll give it to Ripley. You square root it. You square root both sides. But here's the tricky bit. The square root, I've been teaching this wrong for a while. I really should be saying the plus or minus square root cancels out the square. The square root just by itself is not quite powerful enough, as Ripley taps on his leg, to cancel out a square. You need to do a plus or minus square root. So a plus or minus square root and a plus or minus square root. Now it has the sufficient power to cancel out the plus or minus square root, and the square do cancel, leaving me with just an x. But you have to have a plus or minus square root. That means on this right side, we have plus or minus the square root of 81. You guys can all show me with fingers, square root of 81. I usually make these all integers, so you can actually do this on your fingers. Just keep going. If you count to 10, you'll eventually get it. What? Okay, yeah, most people have it. It's 9. And then the plus or minus stays out front.
Oh,
and
you
usually
on your fingers and wipe it over?
I didn't say this about like what is the answer?
Oh.
So yeah, like people are handing like a 2, a 5. It's like very nervous. Yeah, square root of 81 is 9. And this is how we write our answer. But there's another way to write your answer that makes more sense to people that aren't used to this notation. You could have also written it like this. You could have said x is equal to a positive 9 and x is equal to a negative 9. I would argue that this way on the left is much more condensed. And that's the way that I'll typically be writing my answers. But they mean the same thing. I just have 2 answers all in one. One of them is a positive, one of them is a negative. Where's my equals check go though? There it is. Now they're the same. All right, let's try a slightly harder one. Example 2. Are we okay? All right. You don't know what's going on? Give me a quick fist of 5. Now it's a fist of 5. Fist of 5. Give me a quick fist of 5. How are we following? This is like week 3 of Algebra 1, I thought. All right, most people are following 4s and 5s. Yeah. All right, here we go. Example 2. What if I have something like this? 9x squared plus 7 is equal to 23. My crib. Anyway, how do we solve this thing? I'm looking at you, PEMDAS. We're going backwards with PEMDAS. That's how we always solve. That means I'm doing my my exponent last. I'm doing this square last. That 2 is going to be at the very end. Quickly, yeah. Yes, yeah.
oh, he doesn't have a shirt on.
How do I get the x squared, or the x by itself. What are we gonna get rid of first? We have three things to get rid of. We have a 7, a 2, and a 9. Which one do we get rid of first? Everyone hold up on fingers. Which one do we get rid of first? They're all single digits, so you can do it on your 10 fingers. Do you have 9 fingers? Or what is it? Are you?
21.
And the majority of the class has it wrong. Again, I will remind us what reverse order of operations looks like. Let's come over to the side. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. First, I'm trying to get rid of any addition or subtraction. Oh, look, addition.
Oh, but I thought you were talking about side.
Le están viendo como unas
The
películas.
9x squared.
¿Qué es eso? 10?
That part, like I didn't.
Oh, it was a bad question. I apologize. My question should have been, when solving this entire equation, what should your first step be? Should you get rid of either the 7, the 2, or the 9 first when you're solving the equation? The 7, yeah, because the excellent, yes. So from here, we're going to go ahead and subtract 7 on both sides. Subtract 7, and we are now left with 9x squared by itself on the left-hand side. The right-hand side is going to be 16. So far, so good. I'm looking at our faces to see confused faces, but I see faces that are messing around, faces that understand what's going on, faces that are picking their noses, faces that understand what's going on. All right.
I'm rubbing my nose.
I didn't say Ripley is picking his nose.
Who's picking my nose?
I don't know. All right, so from here, I need to now get rid of the 9 by doing what operation? You guys will all shout out on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Division, because we have 9 being multiplied. Yeah, exactly. So we're going to do division. We're going to divide both sides by the 9, both sides by the 9. I get x squared now by itself is equal to this fraction, 16 over 9. You could have done it on that last episode.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
No, yeah, there's multiple ways to do that. That's totally fine. Go for it. So again, a square root by itself is not powerful enough to undo a square.
It's gonna be the same. The answer is gonna be the same.
I don't undo it with the square root. I undo it with a certain type of square root. What's the opposite of a square? Guys, no, that's clever. What's the opposite of squaring a variable? I'm not going to be a distraction.
What? I didn't even know it was.
Sure. All right.
Not as
It's not just any square root. It's a, exactly. You have to plus or minus both square roots, and now it has the power to cancel out the square, leaving you with an x on this side, and you have a plus or minus square root of, and I'm not going to rewrite that because I want to simplify that. Here's how I'm going to write it. You can take the square root of a fraction and then treat that as the square root of the numerator over the square root of the denominator. And here's what that looks like. It's the square root of 16 divided by the square root of 9. I split up the square root into 2 different parts. You're allowed to do this. This is one of your properties of exponents, where you kind of distribute a power to both the numerator and the denominator. A square root is just a fancy way of doing a power. It's power of 1/2. Not quite, because we can simplify this, right? I can say now that x is equal to plus or minus. Yesenia, tell us the answer.
It's 4, square root of 4.
Well, you don't say the square root of 3 because you're taking the square root of 9. The square root of 9 is exactly just 3. There it is. So again, this is the way that I'm going to be writing my answers. Do I write my answers like this? Ooh, I don't. I write my answers like that, but on the homework, I write my answers like this. X is equal to 2 different numbers, and I write it as a set of numbers. I say -4/3 and +4/3. So that's what it's going to look like in the answer. Both ways are perfectly acceptable for writing your answers. If you want to write it like this on that quiz test final, perfect. I believe that is everything in a nutshell. Again, just to make sure that we're all on the same page. The goal here is you're first trying to isolate your square by getting rid of all the stuff on the side of it. And then at the very end, you have to do a plus or minus square root. then just keep going. All right, let's go ahead and do the final test of 5 before we end the recording. All right, I'm seeing a 5, I'm seeing a 4, I'm seeing Zoom kids, I can't really see the Zoom kids, I'm seeing a 2.5, I'm seeing a 5 and a 5. Ashley and Katie are at a 4 and a 4. All right. Excellent. I'll give us a free homework assignment too. So, or free homework problem. Let's come over here to Zoom.